What's going on, guys? Morty Mouse in the house, and welcome back to Extinct, where we discuss the rise and fall of theme park attractions that no longer exist in their original form. Now, I know it's been a while, but we're excited to be back and discuss one of the best attractions of all time, a true fan favorite. Today, we'll be discussing the PeopleMover, and we'll start from the beginning. When Disneyland first opened in 1955, Tomorrowland was a totally different land than what we see today. No neon lights or alien-like buildings, and definitely no PeopleMover. It was a space-age theme that was supposed to take place in a faraway 1986. This was 1955 after all. Now, Tomorrowland was an immensely popular land, and with that popularity, Walt began to see Tomorrowland as a personal project of sorts. He always felt as if the land was never fully completed, and with the 1960s coming quick and new innovations in technology, he saw this as an opportunity to make something amazing. 1959 came and three major attractions opened up. Not just any attractions, e-ticket attractions. What's an e-ticket attraction, you ask? Most of you didn't, but I'll explain anyways. E-tickets were the most expensive tickets for rides and were designated for use of the newest, most advanced, or most popular rides and attractions. Back in the early days, you paid not only for entrance to Disneyland, but you also paid for a value book with ride tickets. In 1955, it was $1 to get in, and then most rides were about 10 to 30 cents each. Anyways, back to those attractions. The three attractions that opened were the Disneyland Monorail, the Submarine Voyage, and the Matterhorn, which were all firsts in their own right. I know what you're thinking. Morty, when are we gonna get to the PeopleMover? Well, enter the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair, where Walt had a hand in many of the attractions. It's a Small World, General Electric's Progress Land, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and most importantly for this video here, Ford Motor Company's Ford's Magic Skyway. Now, Ford's Magic Skyway was pretty interesting. It had 50 Ford convertible vehicles, real ones without engines. The guests would then ride around and through different time periods, from the age of the dinosaurs to the future, with Walt Disney himself narrating the adventure. The ride system would be the precursor to not only the PeopleMover, but to the OmniMover ride system as well. Fun facts, the dinosaur scenes from this ride were moved to the Primeval World diorama scenes in the Disneyland Railroad, and the cavemen were used in the elephant bathing pool on the Jungle Cruise. Around the same time as the World's Fair, the Walt Disney Company had been working on yet another project. Many of you may have heard about this small Florida project, Disney World. We're talking about Disney World and the massive amount of land that was secretly being bought up by the Walt Disney Company and several shell companies to hide their identity. At the center of this project was, of course, Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. Walt had a dream of a real live self-sustaining city, which is nothing like the Epcot that we have today, but I won't get into that. The reason we bring up Epcot is because along with the monorail came another entirely new Disney transportation concept, the Wedway PeopleMover. WED standing for Walter Elias Disney. This new transportation system never stops and uses motors that are embedded in the track itself, not on the vehicles. The idea was that the PeopleMover would move people from the city center to the residential areas. Where would be the best place to test out this new technology? Right, Disneyland's Tomorrowland. Walt had felt that the Tomorrowland expansion in 1959 was a success, but even that couldn't protect it from what we call the Tomorrowland problem. We've touched on this in the past, and in a nutshell, it's the fact that tomorrow will always become today. Walt would pass away December 15th, 1966, never seeing his project fully come to fruition. 7 months later, and the new Tomorrowland would finally arrive, opening on July 2nd, 1967. And yes, the PeopleMover was part of the action. Tomorrowland on the move was here with brand new attractions and rebuilt scenery. Some other old fan favorites would finally make an appearance, including Carousel of Progress, Flight to the Moon, Adventure Through Inner Space, and the rocket jets atop the 3-story building above the PeopleMover. Disney originally asked the Ford Motor Company to sponsor the new PeopleMover, as they had the Ford Magic Skyway before it. Ford declined because they felt this technology had the potential to replace the automobile, and it would not be a good look for them to endorse it. Disney then approached Goodyear, which surprisingly agreed to sponsor the new attraction. The ride replaced the tires currently used on the PeopleMover track and used Goodyear's. They would sponsor the attraction all the way until December 21st, 1981. Tomorrowland was bustling, and the PeopleMover, like Tomorrowland, never stopped moving. No, seriously, guests would enter the ride by walking on a slow-moving rotating platform onto the ride, which was also moving the whole time. The cars would move at about 1.5 miles an hour as the guests boarded. Once everyone was on board the ride, the doors slide close and the ride would begin. It would then shoot up to about 7 miles an hour above Tomorrowland. The attraction was 16 minutes of weaving in and out of rides and show buildings. And it was definitely one of the most relaxing rides on Disney property. The trains did not have motors. They were powered by rotating tires that were embedded within the track every 9 feet, which each had their own motor. The PeopleMover had the ability to serve approximately 4,885 guests per hour, which is outstanding, even compared to today's standards. Guests would have an invisible tour guide pointing out Disneyland's different attractions and promotions from the onboard audio system that played a soundtrack relative to where the train was at the time. It was popular enough to where Walt Disney World got its own version on July 1st, 1975, though this version used linear synchronous motors instead. I won't get into the science of that, but you know, magnets. There were a few changes throughout the years. Superspeed Tunnel was added in 1977, which had race cars projected on the walls. It would later become the Game Grid of Tron in 1982, which would instead project scenes from the movie Tron. Time eventually began to once again take its toll on Tomorrowland. The 80s came and the future was definitely a different place than it was in 1967. The future was no longer smooth and pristine, it was now grungy and dark according to cinema. There was no thought of a great big beautiful tomorrow. It would now be thick urban sprawl with the pollution to match. Tomorrowland was in decline and there wasn't much Disney could do to save it. Even their ideas for a new Tomorrowland, Tomorrowland 2055, never happened thanks to the financial failures of Euro Disney. Yeah, that comes up a lot in this series. It definitely deserves its own video. Anyways, the PeopleMover would finally close in August of 1995. Michael Eisner and Disney Imagineers felt like the ride had outlived its cycle. It was no longer new. It was no longer exciting. It would be one of various rides they decided to close down in order to save money. If it's any consolation, Tomorrowland did end up getting this disgusting paint job. Even though I really don't think that helps. The track would sit empty for almost 3 years until its replacement finally came in 1998. Rocket Rods, which is another extinct attraction we'll be discussing on our next episode of Extinct. The PeopleMover encompassed Walt's idea of what the future would someday be. The ride was not only a classic, but a fan favorite as well, and for many, the abandoned track above Tomorrowland is a taunt of what we once had. It's a reminder to cherish every ride that currently exists, because someday they may too be extinct. Thank you guys so much for joining us on our 3rd episode of Extinct. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you smash that like button and let us know why in the comments below. If not, then don't be afraid to dislike and do the same. Subscribe for more videos like this, click that bell to make sure you see them, and please share with your friends to help us out. As always, I'm your host Morty Mouse. I'll see you later, or I'll see you at another time.